All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our pre-Purim whiskey tasting. We'll be tasting 7 different whiskeys tonight, all of which are numbered and color-coded, and we'll have the opportunity at the end to figure out which ones come from where, and Raj will explain the rules on that. And there will be a prize for whoever gets the most of them right. The way we will this event, I should say, is sponsored by the Adult Ed Committee of Congregation Bethel of Sudbury River Valley. And the sequence of events for tonight, the rabbi will say a few words. I will introduce our expert on whiskey, Raj Sabharwal. We will taste 3 whiskeys. We will auction off a rare bottle that Raj has graciously donated. We'll taste 2 more, auction off another rare bottle that Raj has also graciously donated from his collection. Taste the final 2, and then finish up, reveal what was what, and explain how to order any additional bottles that you might want to get. Okay, so just to start off, I'd like to ask, yes, after all that drinking, the bids will be high. That's what we hope. That's why we're doing it later in the event. But now let me ask Rabbi Brindell to say a few words.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to be here. And this is Stephanie next to me. And it's nice to really just have such a great gathering this evening. This is marvelous. So I promised a very few words, and I'm going to hold to that one because I am excited for us to get to the Scotch. So Purim's right on the way. It's coming Thursday night into Friday, and that's part of why we chose this time of year, Davka, specifically for this kind of gathering. And when I think about Purim and alcohol, drinking, drunkenness, what comes to mind is the teaching from the rabbis. So we're here in the Talmud, and Rava says, one's obligated to get intoxicated on Purim to such an extent that you can't tell the difference between blessed be Mordechai and cursed be Haman. So that's the classic teaching about alcohol and Purim. Jews being Jews, we then have to wrangle over that. Well, what does that actually mean? How do we go about doing that? And I have just 3 different responses to that basic directive at getting so drunk you can't tell the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. So one teaching comes from, so one teaching says, this is from the Shulchan Aruch, this is the Ramah, this is commentary on one of our great legal codes. Some say it's actually not necessary to get all that drunk, but rather just to drink more than one is used to. Teaching continues. And if that happens, one can fall asleep. And when one is asleep, one doesn't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. And it concludes, it's all the same, whether one has more or less, so long as one's heart is directed to heaven. So, okay, you can have a lot, you can have a little, maybe you should have enough so that you fall asleep. All right, so that's pretty good. But so long as your heart is directed to heaven, it's all good. A second teaching says, what does this mean? You can't tell the difference between blessed be Mordechai and cursed be Haman? Well, if you recognize the practice of gematria, which is to say that in Hebrew, letters and numbers are interchangeable. Each letter has a numeric value. If one, here, I'll hold up my sheet here, and I've got this as a PDF if anyone would like to see this later. If you write out, blessed be Mordechai and cursed be Haman, Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, and you flip the letters into their numerical values, both phrases have the same value of 502. So maybe it means you need to get just a little bit lightheaded. And if you are me and numbers are not your friend always, it's very, very little bit of lightheaded indeed, until you can't perform the basic calculation, just the addition, to figure out that these 2 phrases have the same value. And if you didn't like those, I got one more for you. This is from a slightly more modern source. And this is a teaching from Rabbi Shalom Noach Berezovsky. And he's quoting the rabbis himself. And he says, this whole idea of drunkenness as an obligation, it's one of Purim's wondrous aspects. Because Purim is very auspicious and very holy. It contains many lofty components itself. Note that the rabbis don't say, become drunk with wine, liv sumei bayayin, but rather liv sumei bapurim, that we should become intoxicated with Purim itself. Meaning that the day itself has the ability to lift us up. On Purim, a person must thus become so intoxicated, and I think he's making a pun here, that I can be intoxicated without being drunk. I can be revelrous. I can be happy. So that one can't tell the difference between cursed be Haman, one's foes, and blessed be Mordechai, one's friends. And that's where the idea of giving gifts to one another, mishloach manot, to increase friendship and camaraderie, this is an elevated level. And this even applies to one's own self. On Purim, we must get to the place where we can't tell the difference between base physical pursuits and elevated spiritual pursuits. Because such is the power of Purim. It makes no difference how one is engaged in the service of God, since all of creation is God's making. So we as a people have a real love-hate relationship with alcohol and drinking as a whole. For now, suffice it to say that with Purim, we find the rabbis are a little uncomfortable with the idea of drunkenness, but man, do they like the idea of having just enough to make the heart very, very happy. May it be as we move through Adar and up to Purim, and especially on this glorious evening together, that our hearts are warmed, we find delight in one another, and joy in all the gifts of this wonderful created world we have together. Shavua Tov, a wonderful week.
Okay, and at this point, I will introduce our speaker, Raj Sabharwal. Raj is the founding partner and managing director of Glass Revolution Imports. He was born in England, grew up in Toronto, Canada, and so far has lived in 19 cities in 5 countries. After 25 years in the corporate world, Raj decided to follow his passion for fine wine and spirits, and in 2010 started Purple Valley Imports, USA LLC. In 2017, Purple Valley Imports changed their name to Glass Revolution Imports. The new name reflects their focus to revolutionize what is in the consumer's glass. Raj is an avid wine and spirits collector and is WSET, which is Wine and Spirits Education Trust, Spirits Level 3 certified, WSET Level 1 and 2 certified spirits educator, and a certified whiskey ambassador. Raj has spoken at whiskey and spirits conferences around the world. 2020 celebrates Glass Revolution's 10th anniversary. Raj and his 2 partners have grown their company from representing 1 brand in 3 states to today representing 10 brands in over 45 states. Glass Revolution is an importer specializing in world-class spirits from independent distilleries. Raj personally selects the brands and selections offered, and his passion is reflected in the single casks of whiskeys and rums that Glass Revolution offers. At present, Glass Revolution's portfolio includes Amrit single malts and rums, Blackadder whiskey, Murray McDavid, the Further whiskey. There's a long list here, some of which we will be trying tonight. Glass Revolution were the first to import single malt whiskeys from India, Czech, England, and Australia into the USA. Glass Revolution's portfolio includes a number of multi-award-winning products, including 4 World Whiskeys of the Year. In addition, Glass Revolution was recently appointed the exclusive U.S. importer of Waterford Irish single malt whiskey. And it was at a tasting for the Waterford Irish whiskey that I first met Raj, and very impressed by his facilitation and how well that event went. It was wonderful. Glass Revolution has been recognized as Whiskey Importer of the Year for 2013, 14, and 15 by Whiskey Magazine's Icons of American Whiskey. In 2017, Whiskey Magazine recognized Raj as World Whiskey Ambassador, highly commended, with their American Icons of Whiskey Award. And now over to Raj.
Thank you, Steve, for that great introduction. And And thank you, Rabbi, for those wonderful words to lead off the event tonight. It's great to have this event happening, and at such an auspicious occasion as well. So I'm certainly thrilled to be here, be part of the group, and leading this event. Steve and I had gone back and forth about how to conduct this, and I'm a big believer in doing a blind tasting, which is what we're doing tonight. And by blind tasting, it means that you're not going to know what you're tasting until the end of the evening. And that takes away any preconceptions, any pre-ideas you might have about something that could possibly be in your glass. So tonight we're doing 7 single malt whiskeys. I know a lot of people have referred to them as Scotch, but they're not all Scotch because they are made in different countries. So they're all single malts. They all follow the Scottish single malt regulations, which means that they are made solely from malted barley, yeast, and water, aged for a minimum of 3 years, and then in oak casks and then bottled. So tonight we will have the opportunity to try single malt whiskeys from Canada, England, India, Scotland. And so if you all have, I think Steve sent out in the tasting kits a little sheet that has the 7 whiskeys listed in numerical order. And your goal tonight, along with enjoying the whiskeys and making sure that you have a happy heart, is to identify which country you think each one's from and how old each one is. And the reason I picked those to focus on is what difference does age make? Does age make a difference or doesn't it? So let's focus on that. And country, I just want to showcase that there are world-class single malts made all around the world that are challenging Scotland in what used to be Scotland's purview. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and pour your first whiskey, and I'm just going to talk about the some basic tasting habits, some basic ways to taste whiskey. So I tend to use a glass like this, a Glencairn glass. And what you want to do is do not do this. And the reason you do not want to do that is every whiskey we're tasting tonight has pretty high alcohol. I think the lowest is 43% or 86 proof. And the highest is about 62% alcohol. So if you did that and then went to nose it, you would get this big blast of alcohol. It would deaden your senses. You wouldn't be able to appreciate it. So go ahead and look at it. You can take a look at it and see what's in your glass. Color tells you nothing. Okay, a lot of people will look and go, oh, look how dark that color is. It must be really old, or it must be this or that. Color will tell you nothing about a whiskey. It's just an indication. Basically, when you look at it, you want to make sure that there's no, things floating in it that shouldn't be there. Make sure it's a clean, clear spirit. Okay. I see somebody ask the question of, should we rinse between tastings? Yes, I would recommend just a little splash of water, especially if you're using the same glass, just to rinse it out before you pour the next one. And then what you want to do is, when you take the whiskey in your glass and you've examined it, you want to nose it. And when you nose it, bring it up. Don't bring it right up to your nose like that, because again, you're going to get this big blast of alcohol. So you want to tilt it to one side, inhale, tilt it to the other side, inhale, and go back and forth like that. And the reason that we ask people to do that is you could have, a blockage in your nose, you could have a cold, you could have allergies, whatever else, but also different sides of your nasal passages pick up different scents, different aromas. So that's what you're doing. So when you do the first inhalation, you're trying to say, okay, what am I getting here? What sort of aromas, what sort of scents am I getting? On this one, you know, I'm not going to lead you about giving you ideas of what you should be tasting, but maybe you're getting a little vanilla, maybe you're getting a little bit of tropical fruit. But you know, just whatever you think you're getting, because if I say I'm getting mango and you've never had a mango in your life, you wouldn't know what a mango means or tastes like or smells like. So go with your own thoughts. Okay, when I smell this, what does it remind me of? You know, and usually you start high level. So if you go, oh, okay, I get a little citrus in here, or it's sweet. Remember, sweet is not a flavor. So when you think it's sweet, what do you mean by that? Is it honey? Is it molasses? Is it vanilla? Is it sugar? When you say it's citrus, do you mean it's orange, grapefruit, lemon? So start high level, and then as you progress, sort of bring it down into where you're comfortable in knowing it. Okay, so once you've nosed it for a while and your mouth is starting to salivate, then you want to take a sip of this, and you know, don't take the whole thing. You want to take a little bit of a sip, and you want to have it rest on your tongue, close your mouth, and you want to swirl it around in your mouth. So once you, excuse me, once you've done that, open up your mouth, inhale over your tongue, and let all those flavors build up. Now, you know, this might be your first drink tonight, your first whiskey, so the first shock might be a little too much in the mouth, but what you're trying to do is say, okay, what am I getting on the palate? What am I noticing on the tongue? What am I noticing on the sides of my mouth, on the roof of my mouth? And don't forget, your tongue alone has 5 different taste receptors. Okay. So you're going to taste, you know, different areas of your tongue are going to taste sweet, salty, acid, you know, umami, other things. So be aware of that. Be aware of what you're getting in the rest of your mouth, and identify, like, think to yourself, do the flavors that I picked up when I was nosing the whiskey continue on the palate? Am I getting those same flavors? Am I getting those same indicators of what I was experiencing on the nose when I tried it first? And what that does is, you know, you're trying to make a connection. So does this whiskey taste like what it smelled like? Do the aromas in the glass continue onto the palate? Okay. And so on this one, maybe you're getting things like there's a little bit of nuttiness. There's a little bit of, you know, maybe a little saltiness, maybe slightly malty, a little like grain notes on there. And then finally, you're looking at what the finish is like. Is this a long finish? Is it a small finish? Medium finish? Does it linger? Does it just drop off? And those are things you look at when you're trying to say, is this balanced as a whiskey? So what I got on the aroma, what I got on the palate, and what's in the finish, do those all 3 factors balance nicely to create a whiskey I think is really excellent. So finish, David's asking what is finish. Finish is, how does it end up in your mouth? Like after you've had it on your palate, does the taste continue to build and linger, or does it just sort of drop off? If it drops off right away, it's got a very short finish. If the flavors linger for a little bit and then it dissipates, and it's a medium finish. If it continues in your mouth to develop and you're getting layers of flavor that linger, then it would be considered a long finish. Okay. So now that you've tasted the first one, sort of try to figure out how old you think it is and where it's from. And a lot of people ask me when I do these blind tasting, how are we supposed to figure out where it's from? Well, my answer is that if a lot of you are wine drinkers, you know that when you taste wine and you're having wine from a certain country, especially when you look at old world wines, they tend to pair with the kind of food that they would have there. So if you've been to France or if you've been to Spain or Greece, the kind of wines that they've had over the years emulate or sort of highlight the flavors of the food that they have there. And in this case, you want to think, you take a sip of the whiskey and you close your eyes, you want to think, okay, where does this take me? Is it taking me to, I'll go through the countries again. Is it taking me to Canada? Is it taking me to India? Is it taking me to Scotland? Is it taking me to England? Those are the 4 countries that we are tasting tonight. So although there's 7 whiskeys, there's only 4 countries, which obvious math would indicate that there are going to be whiskeys from more than one. They're going to duplicate a country. So, okay. So hopefully I answer that question about there. Okay. So someone's asking about adding a few drops of water. That's a good question, Rabbi, and I will get to that in a second. So the first whiskey we had, and if you look at your sheet, it only had 43% alcohol. So a whiskey at that level, I wouldn't necessarily add water to it. But we'll talk when we get the next whiskey, I'll talk about adding a little water and what that does to it. So if there's no further questions, then we can move on to the next whiskey. Unless somebody has any questions. I think Steve said his wife is sort of accumulating all the questions, and we'll throw them out here. Tips for judging age. That's a good question, Jessica. So age is going to be reflective of how well developed and integrated the spirit is. Does it nicely balance? Are you picking up a lot of woody notes? 60 to 70% of the flavor of a whiskey comes from the barrel it's in. But if it hasn't spent enough time in the barrel to really extract a lot of the flavors, then you're going to get a lot of oakiness, a lot of woodiness in there. So does it mean that if you have a super woody whiskey, is that a younger whiskey? Now, however, I will caution you that there is a trade-off. You get to the point where when a whiskey is aging and it's aged too long in the barrel, the flavor profile will drop off and you'll start to pick up really oaky old notes. The real flavor of the whiskey drops off. So you have to sort of look at it and say, okay, this is a whiskey that I'm picking up some oak notes on, some oak tannins. Does that mean it's young or does that mean it's really old? Okay. So that's a little trick that you have to figure out. But a lot of these whiskeys, you've seen a lot recently that are being released, 60, 70-year-old whiskeys from Scotland. Some of those are being released. They'll never be drunk. They're only being released because collectors are buying them. Who knows what the actual spirit will taste like in there. So if you want to pay $70,000 or $100,000 to buy a bottle and open it up and see what it's like, then power to you. But I just go back to figuring out how old it is just taste. It's the same as tasting wine. When you taste wine, is this wine in my glass young or old? Is it got a lot of tannins? Is the fruit really balanced with the what's in the glass to make sure that it's it's mature enough, it's aged enough. So hopefully that helps people identify age. And I don't want you to be spot on, but if you want to do a range, 2-year range, like 10 to 12, 6 to 8, whatever you want to do that. That's fine. The age range with all of these vary. So we're going to have whiskeys from all over the place. So I don't want to give you all you need to know is that all of these, because they're single malt whiskeys, They have to be a minimum of 3 years. I will tell you all of them are more than 3 years old. But I will tell you that none of these are more than 10 years old. So if that helps, okay, that's a little hint on there. But they may taste like they're older than 10 years, so I don't want to, put that in your mind. All right. Okay, should we move on to number 2? Number 2 is the orange label on there. It does say number 2. And again, on this one, here's another trick when you want to taste, or try to figure out how intense, how flavorful a whiskey is. When you start nosing it, start down to your chest and take a deep breath. And if you're picking up any flavors down there, then you figure, okay, there's a lot going on in this whiskey. Bring it up to your chin. And if you're picking up notes there, you're thinking, okay, you know what? There's flavor in this. This is going to be a pretty, it's got a lot of flavor going on, a lot of intensity. Once you get there, you don't want to bring it up. You might want to bring it up to your lip, but no further than that. And then, like I said earlier, tilt it. And then somebody asked, I think Rabbi asked about water. So I usually take a dropper I use distilled water. So if you put a couple of drops of water, literally I'm putting 3 drops of water in here, and then you nose it. What you will notice is you're picking up more aromas, because there's a chemical reaction that occurs where water will spread the oils and fats in the glass and open it up so that you are able to pick up more flavor notes in there rather than the alcohol. And when we get to whiskey number 4, it'll be really important to do that, because that is very high strength. So we want to make sure that we are doing that at, adding some water to it to make sure that we're not killing ourselves and really roughening up our taste abilities. So a little bit of water does open it up. Does make a difference. And hopefully you'll notice that just when you first nosed it before adding water, and then you put a little more water in there, just those few drops of water, how it opens it up and increases the flavors and the aromas that you're picking up. Okay. All right, now we're going to taste this second whiskey. And because we're tasting all these blind, so try to identify, why does this whiskey taste different than the first one? What is it about this? Now, remember, all of these whiskeys have exactly the same ingredients: malted barley, yeast, and water. And they've all been aged in oak casks, okay? So that's the similarity. So single malt whiskey, different from bourbon, different from rye whiskey, etc. Single malt generally means it's made from barley, malted barley, okay? Whereas bourbon is 51% corn, and it could have other grains in it. Rye, American rye is going to be 51% rye with possibly other grains on there. But you can have malted rye, you can have malted barley, you can have malted kamut, other grains. But for our intents and purposes here, we're looking at 100% malted barley. And as we go through this, I'll tell you what malted barley means, but I don't want to get too technical unless somebody has a big technical question to ask me. Okay. So what's unique about this? So ask yourself, does this whiskey, is it younger or older than the first one I had? What am I picking up? It's different than the first one. I think on this one, I certainly get a little more citrus notes. I mean, a little more lemon, a little more grapefruit that wasn't prevalent on the first one. I don't know if everyone else is getting that or not, but I'm just throwing out some hints there. And I think this is probably a little more sweet, a little more maybe honey or fruity fruity sweetness on there. You know, that's, maybe you're picking up that, maybe you're not, but you want to ask yourself, you know, what's causing that? Is there a difference in where it was made, how long it was aged for, what kind of barrel was used? So when we talk about barrels, and I mentioned earlier that 60 to 70% of the flavor of a whiskey comes from the barrel. So legally, you cannot add flavor to a whiskey. It has to come from the barrel itself. So depending on what kind of barrel it is, whether it's American oak or French oak or European oak or Japanese oak, and what was in the barrel before. So, you know, with bourbon, they always have to use new oak. So nothing has been in that before. They can only use them once. So all those bourbon barrels get sold off to Scotland and other distilleries around the world. And they like using those ex-bourbon barrels because there's already a lot of flavor that's in those barrels. But using a new oak barrel, a new American oak barrel, is going to give you vanillas, coconut, some tropical fruits that you wouldn't get from an ex-bourbon barrel because the ex-bourbon's already extracted all of that out there. If you use a barrel that has previously had wine in it or rum in it, or port or sherry, that's going to contribute different elements to the whiskey. And whether you use that barrel to fully age the spirit or to finish the spirit in there, the whiskey in there, that's going to create different notes as well. Okay. All right. So number 2, where do we think this is from, and how old do we think it is? So ask yourself, do I think it's younger or older than the first one I had? And is this from a more traditional whiskey making country, or is it from a newer whiskey making country? Or, you know, does it make a difference? Can I tell if that's a difference? Somebody threw up a question: why why always oak barrels? Well, traditionally Scotland has always used oak. Oak has a lot of grain to it and a lot of natural flavor elements. The term vanillins actually is something that occurs in oak. So a lot of the vanilla flavors come from what's naturally in the oak itself. American oak and European oak have different flavor profiles that will be given out. American oak tends to be, because of your faster growing, you get a lighter grain in there. It's a little more porous than European oak. So all of those make difference, and they really lend themselves to aging whiskey and other spirits in. Pine, not so much. I mean, pine, you're going to get really different flavor profiles. If anybody has been to Greece, excuse me, and had Retsina, you know what I'm talking about. And other oaks like teak, you know, just think of it: teak, sandalwood, walnut. You know, they're all going to give you different flavors. They're not going to be as receptive to the spirit that goes into the barrels. And the reason you use oak is that there is a sort of a symbiotic relationship that occurs where the oak takes out some of the nasty esters and ethers that are in the spirit, and withdraws those, but at the same time, it's giving to the spirit a lot of the flavors that naturally occur in the oak. So that's why they tend to use oak barrels. But I've had whiskey that's aged in acacia barrels. A lot of small German producers are doing that. And what else have I had? Well, Japanese oak is different than American oak, and then Spanish oak is different. French oak is different. They're all going to give you different flavors. Okay. Any comments on number 2 before we move on to number 3? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I know there's a big group, so I'm not missing anybody. Okay, so number 3.
So Raj, before
Yeah.
you move on to number 3, there was a question about ultrasonic aging. What do you think of ultrasonic aging?
So somebody saw the article in the New York Times on Wednesday about that. That, excuse me, is something that has been going on for, I think, 4 or 5 years. Um, I'm not a big believer in it. I'm sort of a purist and like the old school ways of doing things. I don't think that ultrasonic or expedited aging can replicate the true flavors and essence that you get from letting a spirit stay in the barrel for as long as it normally would. Um, there have been practices where, even American distillers are putting wood staves into a barrel for a period of time to allow that the whiskey to get that flavors and pick up the stuff from the staves. But if you just look at it if you take a small barrel, or like, just look at an American standard barrel, so a bourbon barrel, which is 53 gallons, use that versus using an sherry butt, which is going to be 600 liters or whatever that translates into gallons. Sorry, I work in liters and I just can't do the calculations all the time, but it's a much bigger barrel. And so it's going to take longer for the spirit to interact with the wood. Now, if you use some accelerated process by using ultrasonic, there's even, there's a lot of brands now that are musician owned, and they think that by playing music to the whiskey, it's going to change the flavor of the whiskey. These are all experimental things. And the only thing I can say is try it for yourself and see if it makes a difference. And you know what, if you're happy with it, you're happy with it. Fine. I'm not. And I've had a lot of these accelerated whiskeys, and I just think that they sort of fall flat. They don't. I talked earlier about the finish, and I don't think these whiskeys that are rapidly aged or accelerated are able to have that finish, are able to have the layers of flavor that continue to develop over time in the mouth. So I'll get off my high horse and hopefully I've answered the question, and we'll move on to whiskey number 3. Okay, number 3 is the same alcohol percentage as number 2 was. So it's 46% again. But what you're going to notice on this is it's a little more gentle on the nose, right? I think now, is that because it's older? Is that because, excuse me, it's had a different barrel type? But it certainly has different flavors on there. I'm picking up maybe some licorice or fennel that wasn't prevalent in the last whiskey. Getting a little bit of like honey notes and maybe a little spice. I don't know if baking spices or other kind of spices. I don't know if anybody else is, but those are the kind of things I'm picking up. But I don't want to tell you what you should taste or what you should experience. I want you all to be able to figure out for yourself what you think you're getting. There are no wrong answers. Remember that. So if you think you're tasting or smelling apricots and somebody else says, well, I'm getting coconut, well, that's fine. I mean, that person's getting coconut, you're getting apricot. You get what you get because everybody is getting their own experience. Somebody else, can you get drunk by smelling? No, no, you can't, but you can get, and I know this from personal experience, having been to a number of different whiskey and spirit shows. Even if you put it in your mouth, swirl it around, let it linger, and then spit it out, you can get drunk from that, especially if you're doing it all day long. Because even if you spit it out, that alcohol has enough time to get absorbed into your system. The tongue picks it up, the mouth picks it up. But just by smelling it, I don't think it does that. Is neat better than on the rocks? That's an interesting question. So when we're tasting new products, when we're tasting new whiskey, and we're doing a tasting like we're doing today, you want it neat. You don't want it adulterated anyway. And the problem is if you put it on rocks, it's chilling something. And if you chill anything, it dissipates the flavor. It reduces the flavor that you can pick up. Okay, so that's why I always encourage people to, when they're tasting something for the first time or they're going through a tasting experience, you want the whiskey to be in its natural environment. You want the oxygen to go in there. You want the oxygen to interact with the whiskey and open it up. And if you just put ice into it and drink it, you're not going to pick up the flavors that you would without chilling it. Okay. So that's something to remember. And even adding water, like adding a ton of water to it. That's why if you're going to do it, put a few drops in there, which is not going to change it on the nose. It's going to change it on the nose. It's not going to change it on the palate. So just a little bit of water, no ice, and just figure out what the whiskey is like before you try it, especially if it's a new whiskey you've never tried before. You want to have it neat, and then after that, your second or third time you have it any way you want. Have it on rocks, have it with mixed in cocktails, whatever you want to do. Just don't drink it with Coke, especially in front of me. Now you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying that it's personal preference, but just make sure that you understand what's in there, because if you don't taste the spirit by itself and figure out what the flavor profile is, then why buy an $80 bottle of whiskey versus a $20 bottle of whiskey if you're just going to mix it with something, right? If you're not going to appreciate what the spirit is all about, then why buy something better than something that's not? If you're just buying it for the sake of, I'm going to mix this with orange juice and drink it, does it make a difference what the spirit tastes like? But we're talking whiskey, and whiskey, there's so many different whiskeys in the world. Whiskey's made, every country in the world makes whiskey. And you want to be able to appreciate the differences and understand what makes them all different. Okay. All right. So number 3, what else? Was this, was it a little richer? Was it a little more spicy? I think somebody said spicy. Somebody said that it's got starts spicy and smoky. That's interesting that somebody says and smoky, and we haven't had anything that would be defined as smoky yet. As we move forward, as we get towards the end, we're going to have whiskeys that have had are peated or little peated, and you're getting a little of that smokiness. Sometimes you can pick up a little bit of smoky flavor just based on what was previously in the barrel. So if the barrel was an ex-bourbon barrel that had a lot of char in there, you're going to extract some of that flavor in, and you could pick up some of that element off the char that's making you think it's smoky without it actually being smoky. Okay. All right. I think somebody made an interesting comment that they were getting it's smoother and more balanced than number 2, getting some figs on there. And then somebody said starts spicy and ends resinous and licorice. Yeah, I would see that. I think there is an element of spice, not in a bad way. I think the spice element in there is more sort of baking spices or cooking spices rather than, Chinese or Indian kind of spices, but they're pleasant spices. It's almost like a nice spice cake or something. You're probably picking that up from there. I like that buttery and vanilla frosting. Yep, definitely. I get that. So So just at this point, before we take a little break and do the auction for the first item, just sort of so far say, okay, the first whiskeys I've had are the first three. Which of the first three did I like the best? Did I like one the best, two the best, three the best? We're just going to rank them at the end of it. Like Steve saying, not peppery spice, but bacon spice. Yep, definitely. All right. So are we all ready to, now that we've had a few drams and we've got a little happiness going in ourselves, should we auction off the first item? I think, Steve, we're doing the Inequity Australian single malt. Is that right?
That's correct. I'll pop it up on the screen. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So I will unveil it here. So this is the Inequity from Australia. Inequity is made by a small distillery in Adelaide, Australia, South Australia. It is literally a two-person operation, and they do everything by hand, all the distillation, all the fermentation, and the bottling. And you can see it's got a nice little wax seal on the top of the bottle. This was a single barrel that I selected. It's exclusive to the US. It's batch number 10. There were a total, I don't know if it says on here, a total of about 260 or 270 bottles. And that's all. When this is done, it's done. And Ian, who heads up the distillery, just really passionate about what he does. From my first time I met him in Australia, I was speaking at a whiskey conference, spirits conference, and we got along really well. And so we had a bonding, and I said, well, Ian, I got to have your whiskeys in there. We were able to, first thing I did was buy 2 older barrels that he had from a previous distillery that had shut down because him and his partner had parted ways. So we were able to buy the last 2 barrels of that whiskey. One only had 50 bottles out of it. One had 150 bottles from it. Both of those sold very quickly and got rave reviews. So they're doing really quality things. So this is the batch number 10, which is exclusive to the US. I said, correct, neither of these are in the tasting lineup. These are exclusively available to have people try this. This is very rare. This is not any of the whiskeys we've tasted or will be tasting. I just decided to offer it up as an additional fundraiser for tonight and to go to the congregation. But you'll get this great packaging. So it'll look good on your shelf. You open it up. It is just a beautiful whiskey, and not only the packaging, but what's in there is just incredible. The fun thing is trying to get it out of here. So what do you suggest we start the bidding at? Well, this is a fundraiser. So the retail, if you were buying this, it would be about $225 a bottle for this. So let that be a guide to you. And this is, I'll tell you, this was not available in Massachusetts. So you would have to go out of state to get it. But you can see the carats taken in there with the wax seal on there. Gorgeous color in there. Again, I said color doesn't tell you anything, but I will tell you that this has had some time in export casks. So
Look at that. Look at that.
yeah, this has a lot of really beautiful fruit flavors. If you're a port lover or a sherry lover, you're going to pick up all of those notes in there.
So Steve, you want me to help a little bit here? Is this my?
Yes,
cue?
so here's what's going to happen at this point. We're going to do the bidding. Arnie is going to run the auction. He'll be our auctioneer. And what I'd like you to do is raise your hands, because use the hand raise function in Zoom. And then he can call on you to call out your bid. If everyone is calling out bids at once, it will be chaos and we won't be able to hear anything.
Zoom will keep, if you use the raise hands function, it's under reactions. If you use that function, it will keep track of who raised their hand first. So we're going to make sure that everybody gets in order. Don't worry, but Vivian already got a bill already. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Arnie now to run the auction. So here's Arnie.
Great, thank you so much, Steve. Great, and Raj, I wanted to thank you. We've learned a great deal already, and we still have our wits about us. So who knows how much you're going to learn in a little while. But Raj,
Thank you, Arnie.
great. Raj, I just have to ask you a question. When one speaks at a spirits conference, which is what you just said, like I'm kind of interested. Like, does one get dressed up? Does one have a drink beforehand? How does it work? Who's in the audience? Tell me anything. I'm just kind of intrigued by it.
Depends on the time of day or where it is, but usually evening, Arnie is a little more robust than first thing in the morning. But yeah, whenever you're presenting, you gotta look the part, right?
There you go. Well, I'm sure you do a great job. How long do you start with the joke? Do you have like a Scotch joke you start with or something like that, or no?
That's a good question. I should probably do that, but I just rely upon my own great personality to.
There you go.
deliver
Okay,
it. So,
Raj, and you certainly witty. I can tell all the way. Okay, so let's start if we can. I think we already have a sitting bid of $200 for a $225 bottle of Scotch. I'm looking at it right here. Someone made an earlier bid, so I'm depending on Steve and Amy to help me kind of see what we've got here. I see Vivian's got her hand raised already. So Steve and Amy, you want to? I'll work with you. Do we have a bid of a $225, which is basically you're getting a deal.
Right.
You don't have to pay shipping. You don't have to pay import tax. You don't have to pay any sort of tax, or a driver to get it to you or give a tip. So
I will deliver it. I will deliver it to you. I will ship it to you.
So Vivian, is that a bid, Vivian?
Do we do this orally? No, my bid is $300.
There you go, Vivian.
Right.
Excellent, outstanding. Vivian goes for 300, and Raj, I would say that's already a very good deal because they're giving to a great cause here. They're giving.
That's a great deal.
Cause.
That's a great deal. And Vivian, I will even sign the bottle for you if you want.
So 300 signed by
Thank you.
Raj to begin with. Do we have a bid? I'm looking for a bid of 325, and Amy and Steve, if you'll keep your eyes open here, that is a signed bottle. Am I correct? By someone.
Yes. I will personalize it. I will sign it. Yeah.
Right.
Can I add an editorial comment?
Please.
I didn't think we were here to get deals. I thought we were here to raise money.
That's right. Thank Vivian. Vivian, well spoken. We're here to raise money for the congregation. That's absolutely. Thank you, Vivian. That's why your generous bid is excellent. But I'm looking for a bid that will go over that will go to 325. And this is again an outstanding bottle of Scotch that will go towards a very good cause, signed by Raj himself, and shipped by Raj himself. That's really great. And Raj, is a frequent speaker at these spirit conferences. So you're really getting, this is just the side of a celebrity endorsement. So do we have?
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to include 2 Glencairn glasses with that.
Oh, wow. You're
So
going to make me
2
want to
official-
raise my bid.
I won't give you the ones that have my name on it, but you will get two official Glencairn. These are officially sanctioned by the royal family as the official whiskey tasting glass.
That's great.
That's very special.
They're very good. Thank you. And so we're looking for 325. Raj, you said something during your talk, which really struck me, that you are not a believer in ultrasonic aging. Did I remember this? I want you to know you were in a crowd where there's a number of people who are firm believers in ultrasonic aging. You just look around here, you'll see them. You got this fellow Mitch Rosenberg. He's a heavy believer in ultrasonic aging. I know this for a fact.
There you go.
That's all right. So maybe we can find someone else who give us 325. Steve or Amy, do we have anybody yet at 325?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Come on.
I think they needed to drink more whiskey first.
I think they need to, this is for a very good cause. It goes for Bethel, which is wonderful, where all of us have strong feelings and strong positive attachments to Bethel. I would just point out, and I know this firsthand, that the heat in the sanctuary is substandard. If you were to give 325, I know for sure that you could watch the Rabbi and Laurel, and for 1 week, their lips would not turn blue. Not turn blue. It's not worth 325 to someone. I think it is. Rabbi, do you agree, though, that this would be a great deal? You could unmute yourself. For 325, your lips not turning blue?
Not only do I think that this would be a great deal, and I'm right with Vivian, we're not here after deals, we're here to support our community. And I would love to be able to be in our sanctuary in the winter and not watch poor Laurel shivering as my own lips are turning blue also.
Right.
For the sake of the Rabbi and the cantor, my friends, we need that heat and that joy in your heart from this amazing, amazing bottle here. I have to
I
say.
agree. And it's not only that it's a good deal, you're absolutely right. It's still a very, very good cause for Congregation Bethel. Stephen, I think we're going to give it
325.
325.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
We're not in it on our own. It's
Oh.
the Cortland Leonard bets.
Excellent. 325. That's the way to do it. I love what you just did. You chatted with another party and you said, how about if we'll have a nice night together, right? Or we'll break out the bottle. We'll enjoy ourselves. We'll do it a couple of times. Once we get our vaccines, or we'll keep it socially distant. Absolutely right. This is a wonderful idea. I'm so glad you thought of it. That in honor of getting vaccines, 2 households, 3 households can go in together. That's the spirit of community, right, Rabbi? I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely.
There you go. Congratulations. I think 350 is a wonderful donation to be able to make. This is well worth it. 350 going in a couple of households, a couple of families thinking about it. Gail Kazin says, perhaps you just put this on your arm itself and it'll just kill the corona. Maybe that's it. So we're looking for 350. Amy, Steve, I'll look to the two of you. Do we have?
I don't see, but I want to mention also, one of the cool things about whiskey is that you don't drink a lot of it at any given moment. So in terms of the dollars per, you could, with this one bottle, it's not just one evening of pleasure. You can this is many, many evenings. Think about how much we're drinking tonight. So I think it's a really terrific idea to go in with multiple families. It's also a terrific idea to think of this as something you're going to enjoy over a long period of time.
Right. So what I was thinking, Amy, I agree with you completely. And Bonnie Miller, who I'm also thinking about, I'm thinking of you, Bonnie, is that this is the sort of thing, many of us have been on Zoom meetings. Is there anybody on this call? I just want to do a little survey, and Raj will finish up in a moment, then I'll turn right back to you. Is there anybody on this call that has had as many as 3 Zoom meetings in a single day? Please raise your hand if you have as many as 3. There you go. There you go. Is there anybody on the call that's had 4 Zoom meetings in a single day? Imagine if you had a sip of this before your first meeting, your third meeting, your fourth meeting, your fifth meeting. It would make your day. You can have it, in fact, in front of every single meeting, and imagine how much better your day would go. That's why I agree with you, Amy, completely. This is a sound investment towards a very worthy cause. Removing the blue lips from both Laurel and from the Rabbi for adult ed, this is a wonderful thing, and perhaps is the sort of thing you do. So do we have a bid for 350? Steve or Amy, do we have a 350? Do I have 350?
I see
There's a
clapping
hand.
hands. I don't know. Is that clapping hands also a raised hand? Who's that? Ina Bachman, is that a bid? Do I see there, or is that just clapping hands? I don't want to push you in anything.
No, that's Eli and Ina in with, we have a secret partner.
Excellent.
Sorry, I got your name wrong. Ina.
Excellent. So wonderful. So Vivian, I'll go back to you. I'll go back to the Corklands. For 375, very well, this could be yours. For 375, very well, it could be yours. It's yours and another family. Vivian, this is just a little bit more than you started with. It's a great, great opportunity for a wonderful cause. I'll go to the Corkland Leonards, 375, it could be yours at 375. What do you say about it? Vivian, what do you say? I know you were generous enough to get us started at 300, but if you go to 375, imagine the Rabbi not shivering, not having to wear a scarf. This is very worthwhile here.
I'm gonna wait for the next one.
Okay, all right, okay. Dave Schwartz, I've got a good feeling about you. At least you're talking to the fellow over there. Dave, what do you say, 375, Dave? Oh, I'm on mute. I'm on mute. Okay, I think it is, we're at 3:50. I think we need to return to our drinking. So I'm going to say 3:50 once, 3:50 twice. Sold to Eli and Ina. Congratulations and partners. Very good. I turn
And
All
you
right.
can send
turn
a,
to you.
and you can basically just send a check
Our-
to Bethel to cover
Our
that.
secret partners are Mitch and Bell.
So just let me
Yay!
know how you want it personalized, and I will make sure that that happens. And if there's there's more than two of you that bid on this. Sorry, you muted, so I can't hear you.
Yes. That would
Right.
have been
Two couples, I think.
Two
Eli
couples, so I'll
and
make sure you get,
Mitch and
I'll
Bell.
make sure you get 4 glasses.
Okay, wonderful.
Very kind, thank you.
Yeah, there's 4. Yeah, there's 4 of us all together.
Okay.
We were gonna they were gonna be like children that went from one home to another, so they would start with them and then go to them and come back. So
That's great.
If you
Right.
email, this is Steve. If you email me how you want it personalized, I will make sure that email goes to Raj.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thank you. Great.
Note that if people are making secret bidding groups, you can use the private chat functions, and then not everybody in the chat will know what you're planning. Hint, hint.
There you
That
go.
would make the prices go higher.
Okay. So should we go back to the tasting?
Yes, I think we are on to number 4. We'll do 4
Number
and
4,
5 and then the next bottle.
green, which is your green label. Just remember this one is really high alcohol, 62.3% ABV or 124.6 proof. So this one I would highly recommend adding water to it even before you go and nose it. Okay. Just make sure you have some water in there. And also, while we're talking about water, make sure you're staying hydrated. Make sure that you keep drinking water in between each whiskey because alcohol can be a dehydrator, so you want to stay hydrated. How much water? So I usually, like I said, I carry these droppers with me, which have distilled water in there. And I will, in something like this, if I'm pouring about half an ounce, I'm going to put about 4 or 5 drops of water in there. Just that little bit is going to open it up. And then just sort of tilt your glass side to side to let the water play around with it. And then go ahead and start breathing. Inhale. Inhale. And hopefully, I mentioned that if people are noticing differences between the aromas they're getting from each nostril. Those of you who practice yoga, you'll know from your yoga teaching that the nostril you're inhaling through alternates every 3 or 4 hours. So you're not always inhaling through both nostrils, right? There is a difference between there. And that's why you have a dominant nostril as well, where you're going to get that side of your brain is going to pick up more flavors than the other side. But you just want to make sure that's part of the reason that you do that. Another way you can do it, and we like to say this, is if you take your glass and put your hand around it, and then take your other hand and put it on top, and then bring your glass close up to your heart, because we like to say whiskey comes from the heart. So you do it that way. But what you're actually doing is heating up the contents of what's in your glass. And if you do that for about 30 seconds to a minute, you'll see that the glass is starting to steam up a little bit. And then you remove the hand. And what you've done is, in that process, you've concentrated those volatiles, those high alcohol volatiles, and those will dissipate off there. So then when you nose it, you're not getting some of those nasty ethers or esters in there. You're getting some more flavor that's coming through there. Okay. So you'll notice that this, again, this whiskey is probably a little lighter in color than the first three we had. But again, color doesn't tell you anything, right? So don't let that sway you. You're going to get more from tasting it. Is this whiskey, are you picking up something on here? Somebody's getting chocolate. Are you getting white chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, melted chocolate? So higher alcohol, I think I can tell you is this is from a single barrel. This has had no water added to it, so it's what we would call a cask strength whiskey. So the whiskey, the barrel was taken, emptied, and bottled. Did a little filtration and bottled. So it is the pure, unadulterated version of this. So a lot of whiskeys, generally what you buy in the marketplace will, unless it's a single barrel, it will be an amalgam of 50, 100, 200 different barrels. And then there's always water added to it after they've married all of these barrels before they bottle it. And they'll add water, they will chill it down to remove some of the fats and oils from there. And that's called chill filtering. And when that happens, the reason that the distillers do that is if you don't chill filter a whiskey and you leave your glass or a bottle on the windowsill or somewhere cold, the fats will separate and you'll get what's called flocking. So you'll see little things floating in your glass or in your bottle. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but if you take it and shake it, it'll all come back together. But to avoid that from happening and scaring off the consumer into thinking there's something wrong with it, a lot of distillers opt to chill filter their whiskey. So they will reduce it down to about 31 degrees, then pass it through a filter. And when that happens, it will leave behind the fats and oils. But to me, fats and oils are flavor. And if you leave that behind, you're not getting it. So generally, anytime you buy a whiskey that's below 46%, maybe 43%, but generally 46% alcohol, it will have been chill filtered. Okay. Yeah. So if you get those nice unchill filtered, and most of what we import is not chill filtered, nor does it have any coloring added to it. And adding caramel coloring is perfectly legal in Scotland and other places, and they don't have to tell you that. They'll add caramel coloring to try and create consistency from batch to batch. But again, that's something, it doesn't change the flavor, but it does change the color and keep it consistent. Okay. So hopefully nobody got really super blasted by the high alcohol content on here. It is the highest alcohol whiskey or spirit we're going to have tonight, followed by I think the next one's going to be the second highest. So we're getting two big alcohol whiskeys back to back. Okay. Any thoughts on this one you just had? I don't know if other people are getting it, but I tend to get like green apple. I'm getting a little more barley notes, barley field, cereal notes on there, almonds. Yep, we got almonds on there. It is a little salty. There's a little salinity in there. True. More on the palate than you don't get it on the nose, but maybe a little bit on the finish. And you're getting a little bit of, I think a little bit of oak tannins on the side of the mouth there. So that could indicate that it is younger. It also, the type of barrel, don't forget, this is a single barrel. It is the first single barrel whiskey we've had. So that means that it is straight out of the barrel. Nothing has been done to it. It was bottled, just came out of the barrel, had a little bit of filter, and then bottled. So the purest form that you're going to get of whiskey. Okay. Yeah, like that. Little water, the nutty, grainy flavor comes out. So yeah, definitely almonds. Anybody else getting green apple? I tend to get a lot of green apple. I almost think of this particular whiskey as being, those Jolly Rancher green apple candies. I tend to get that kind of flavor profile in there. And I don't know if anybody else is, but. All right. Apricot. Very nice. Yes, definitely stone fruit. So apricot, peach maybe. Oh, Jelly Belly sour apple. Perfect. That's probably along the same line as those Jolly Ranchers. Yep, I would definitely get that. So sour apple. So green apple rather than like a Macintosh or Fuji or Honeycrisp or something. You're definitely getting that tartness that's in there. Interesting. Sandeep said less alcohol than number 2. Well, that's interesting because it's definitely higher. I mean, it is almost 20% higher in alcohol. But it's interesting that you felt that it was lighter. I mean, I think that oftentimes when you get a single barrel, without water being added to it, it's not more nicely integrated. You're getting more flavors. You're getting more of those fats and oils that I talked about that help to deliver a more robust flavor profile. Okay. All right. Should we move on to number 5? Okay. So number 5 again is a single barrel, cask strength 55.6%. This is your blue sticker on there. This is number 5. This one has, I mean, again, I keep saying nothing, color doesn't tell you anything, but sometimes color can be a little indicator. This has sort of that red hue to it, which is probably indicative of maybe the kind of barrel that it was in. So maybe it was a fortified spirit, like a wine, a sherry or port, or maybe it was a red wine barrel that this was in. It's got a lot of rich flavors in there. I'm getting honey and vanilla on there, on the nose. And then the palate, a lot of citrus, orange, lemon, white pepper, maybe a little spiciness, a little peppery, right at the front of the tongue, where you would pick up that spiciness. And on the finish here, earlier somebody mentioned that they were getting a little bit of smokiness on this. This one, I get a little smokiness on the finish, a little bit of almost like char or charcoal residue that sits on there, that then opens up into a little bit of like caramel candy, burnt caramel notes on there. I don't know if anybody else is getting that. I don't want to put thoughts into your minds, but those are just some of the things that I'm getting. And I must confess that I do have the privilege or opportunity to try a lot of different whiskeys from around the world. You should see my office has thousands of samples in there that just waiting one day to be tried. So, yeah. So is a pineapple. That's good. Steve's getting pineapple. So sort of tropical fruit on there. Anything else different about this? More people getting caramel. Yep, definitely getting caramel. So think about what makes this unique, and then think about where is this from? Is it from Scotland? Is it from India? Is it from England? Is it from Canada? And how old is it? Is it younger, older than what you've had so far today? Interesting. Steve's getting celery and burnt and toasted vanilla. Yeah, that burnt toasted vanilla, I mean, that sort of equates to caramel. So when you cook sugar up. It's going to give you that vanilla notes. It's going to give you that burnt toffee, burnt caramel flavor extract. But a really nice whiskey. A lot going on. Nice long finish. Yeah, I got Andy saying nice longer finish. I don't know which one you're comparing it to, Andy, but I think maybe one of the other ones we had a bit of a longer finish, but this certainly has a nice long finish. It sort of lingers, but I think the finish tends to be more sort of two-dimensional rather than being multi-dimensional. Somebody asked the question, after you buy something, does it deteriorate over time? So one thing, whiskey or any spirit does not age any further in the bottle. So once it's bottled, that's it. It can deteriorate over time, especially if you store your bottle in a sunny, direct sunlight environment. You want to make sure that you're keeping it in sort of a darker environment. That's why a lot of times, if it comes in a tube or a container or a box or something, keep it in there. And if you have something that's really rare that you want to keep for longer, make sure you keep it in a cooler environment. Okay. And if you're keeping it upright, every once in a while, just give it a little bit of shake to make sure that cork stays a little moist. But you want to keep whiskey upright rather than lying down, because lying down, that high alcohol will eventually deteriorate the cork in there, and it'll be really hard to, you'll have a broken cork or a deteriorated cork and little cork bits floating in your whiskey. Okay. I like that thicker texture than the others. Yeah. That's, and that could be because it's got higher alcohol. That could be contributing to that. And also, I would venture to say the type of barrel that it was in. And, I can say that because I know what kind of barrel it was, but I think the barrel it was in is contributing to that richer texture. All right, aromatic nose, mouth finish on the throat. Great. So this one stirred up a lot of thoughts, a lot of discussion about the whiskey, which is great. And that's what this is all about, is trying to taste the different elements on there and see what it's like. A round mouthfeel. Yeah. And Amy, I would also call that like a full mouthfeel. So when you have something, and it's very much a comment that we use when we're wine tasting, is that, do you get a full mouthfeel? Does it hit all of the receptors in the mouth? And I think this whiskey certainly does. So you're getting that full mouthfeel, that full richness and robustness from a whiskey. Yeah, it's multi-dimensional. Like I know I said the finish sort of was two-dimensional, but I think that there is a lot going on with this. Bonnie, I will definitely tell you what kind of cask. I will tell you all of the information when we do the grand unveiling at the end. So, and I'm not going to keep anything secret. Anything you want to know, I will tell you. But now that we've finished the next two, I think it's, Steve, it's time for the second auction, correct?
That is correct. I
right.
will put up the bottle. And then, if you tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. The Canadian whiskey is not from Nova Scotia. Let me ask if it was. Okay, so this, as the picture shows, is a beautiful wooden box. This is highly prized. This is a single barrel. This is from the English Whiskey Company, which was England's first new whiskey distillery in over a century. So they're about 150 miles from the England-Scotland border. The family who started were sixth generation farmers, and Mr. Nelstrup said, we're selling all of our barley to the Scots and everybody else, why aren't we making our own whiskey? So he wanted to do that. So they started their distillery, and unfortunately, Mr. Nelson passed away 3 years ago, I believe, 2.5 years ago. But he did live to see his dream come to fruition. So this is from his, what would have been his private stash, cask number 0859. And this is bottle 91 of 210 bottles. This is bottled at 59.3%. No water added to it. It is a single cask. And this was aged in, I'm just trying to remember, I think it was a port cask. Yes, it was matured for the entire time in a cask that previously held port. This was not available for sale. This is from my private collection. And so we're offering this up to sell. You get a little certificate. You can see that's signed by James Nelstrip. This is, although this is, 6 years, almost 6 years old. It is going to drink a lot older than that, a lot more mature than that. So, all right. So I will let Steve go ahead with the bidding process on this.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to turn it over to Arnie to run our auction. And as soon as I find him on this, there he is, I will. Okay, Arnie, you need to unmute.
Thank you so much. Raj, could you help us again? What is the, what's the price on this, you would say? What do you think?
This, Arnie, this is priceless. It is something that was gifted to me from the distillery, and it's not something that is available for sale. It might be, at auctions or whatever, but you get this beautiful decanter, etched glass decanter with St. George slaying the dragon on there. And this is, bottle number, it says right on there, bottle number 91 of 210 bottles. That was all that ever came out of the barrel. And
I see a couple of bids.
I
Okay,
think that,
Andy
yeah.
Superfly. Andy Superfly, go ahead, give us your bid.
Yes, I will start at 250.
Great.
And I
Very
and-
good, the Superfly, that's great.
And Vivian, where are you at?
This is a
I
basic whiskey.
300.
Very, very good, Vivian. That's great. Thank you very, very much. So far, we have 2 bids. I see Andy Superfly is not going to leave that be at 250, at 300. Andy, what do we got?
I will say 350.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very, very much. We have 350 at the moment for Andy Superfly. We're now looking probably for 400.
Wait. I saw Gene Betts's hand up. Hey, Gene, what was your bid?
1,800.
No. Stop.
Wait. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm having a
Leonard,
little-
if you're
little
on-
marital-
Alan, I heard that. But Gene, did we hear a bid, or Vivian, I'm sorry, Amy, did we have a bid from Gene?
Gene's hand was up and then it was lowered. I don't want to, so Gene, did you want to make a bid?
Lisa, I see
I'd say
Lisa's hand.
375.
Yeah, we're with her.
Lisa, what about you?
We're with Jean and Dave.
Very, very good. So we've got
I can't hear
Lisa,
well.
Gene and David, we've got Andy, and we've got Vivian. Hold on, I want to see if there's others who will join in here. We're
Another
375.
hand up. We got, let's
This is
see.
gorgeous. Look at
Yes.
that box. That is beautiful. That's from your private collection. That's gorgeous, Raj.
James Jensen. James, would you like to
Yeah,
give
for
us
400.
100 from James.
400? And Andy Goldberg, Andy Superfly Goldberg. Let's hear where your response.
I will go 425.
425 we've got. Very, very good. I think we can get 450. Thank you, Andy. That's wonderful. Vivian, how about you? Lisa, how about you? 450. 450, and maybe it could be yours. What do you think? Okay, we'll wait a moment. They've got to check. But can I ask Raj, do you have any more of those glasses you could share with folks? If you could include, what do you say?
Yeah, I will. But I won't sign this bottle only because I don't want to detract from the value of it. But yeah, I think I actually have a couple of English whiskey glasses.
Oh,
I think there's only 2 available, but I will send those 2 with this bottle.
Wonderful.
I see a
Very
hand up.
generous.
I see
Go
a
ahead.
hand up from James Jensen. James?
450.
Very good, Jim. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Lisa, I'll come back to you. What do you say, 475? Vivian, what about 475?
Oh, let's say 500.
Okay,
It's a
very
nice even number.
Very nice.
Look, thank you. Look at how beautiful it is. Could you show that bottle once more? You're very handsome to look at, but the bottle is even more handsome at this moment. Look at that box.
This is the box. You got to push the secret button.
Oh, that is gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
And you get a nice certificate
Andy, how
signed
about
by
you?
James Nelson.
525, Andy. Andy, 525. It's for a very good cause. It's beautiful. What do you say? 525? No, okay, all right, okay. Jim, how about you? 525. 525. Look at it. This really is something special. Honestly, it's something special. It's for a good cause. It's COVID. Come on. What do you say? Well, you're doing jigsaw puzzles, I've been told. This is perfect. 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 525. What do you say? Okay, we'll come back to you.
Hand up. Jim, I got another hand up from Jim.
Excellent. Very, very good. 525.
We'll do 550.
550.
550. Very nice.
550. A preemptory move. Excellent. Excellent. Very, very good. 550. I believe the bid now would be 5.
Excuse me. I have partners, Neil Freeband and Barry Shango, and they're making me go up to 600.
All right. You've got some good partners there, my friend. You've got some wonderful partners. We love them. We love them. Do you have, so you would get, Raj, to go back for a moment, you would get the English Whiskey Company glasses for the English Whiskey Company bottle number 89 out of 210. This is like
91. Bottle number 91.
Bottle number 91. This is like something special that like people could share. It's something very, very special that really is a collector's item. And I bet it's delicious. Don't you think it'd be delicious whiskey as well?
I think it will be. I mean, unfortunately, I've never opened it. I've had it sitting here all that time, and I hate to open it, but
just
the nice thing is that after you've done with it, it still makes a beautiful decanter.
That's right. That's when you just go to Trader Joe's and you buy the $6 scotch. You pour it in there. Who the hell knows? Not that I'm saying anything.
Dragon on it. It has this gorgeous etched dragon on it. Come on.
That's right. Jim, what do you say? 625. Is that possible? What do you say? It's a beautiful, beautiful object.
We don't have any partners.
Andy, what do you say? How about you be partnered with Jim? You get 6 months out of the year in your house, 6 months out of the year in his house.
Jim, I see Jim's
So
hand up.
We'll partner with you.
We'll go
Very, very good. Okay, so what's a bid? 625, Jim?
No.
Jeannie, you and Dave in on this one?
Lisa, 650, it could be yours. It's really gorgeous.
No, I'm in on the 625 one.
You're on the 625. Excellent. Good, good, good. That's great. Vivian, I go back to your team, your crew. 650. What do you say? It's
well, Arnie, I wanted to make a bid in your honor. And in order to do that, I guess I will have to go to 650. And remember, this is in your honor because I have loved you from the very beginning. And with Laurel's permission, I have loved you from the very beginning.
That's always been my love, the pure and chaste from afar. That's the way to do it. Vivian, I couldn't be more delighted. Thank you very, very much on all different levels. Thank you, Vivian. 650 is a bid. 650 is a bid. Right now, it's kind of hard to ask people for more. When you say that, you got me. You won my heart. You had me at a low. 650 goes once.
Sarah Balin has her hand up.
Who does?
What?
Sarah Balin has her physical hand up.
Ah, thank you, Sarah.
Sarah, you're muted. Sarah, you need to unmute.
Left field comes Sarah Balin.
Sarah, I can't unmute you directly. I've asked you, I can ask you to unmute, but I can't unmute you. We still can't hear you, Sarah. Sarah, do you want to just type it in the chat?
Just a minute.
Ah, there we go.
There we go.
We got you.
This is $1,000 in honor of Laurel and Arnie.
All right, here.
Okay, now
Excellent,
we're
excellent,
talking.
excellent. For
Wonderful.
that little receipt.
Wow.
We'll seek for that. $1,000. That's fantastic. Sarah, that's very kind. That's
Thank you, Sarah.
enormously generous. That's great. You've knocked our socks off. And I think, friends, if it's okay with everyone else, we're going to say Sarah Balin, in honor of Laurel and myself. That's wonderful. Going what? But Vivian, hold on. You said you love me pure and chase from afar from the beginning. You had me at a low. Vivian, any chance you and your wonderful group, and believe me, I appreciate everything.
I
you
have
do.
no group.
You don't, I know, you are on it, you're on your own.
This goes to my son-in-law,
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
my wonderful son-in-law, who is the husband of Jocelyn,
Okay, all right, okay.
who was the next
Okay,
person in the.
Sarah, that's very kind. We're gonna call it a quit here. Thank you, Raj. This is wonderful. Going once, going twice. Sold to Sarah Balin, $1,000 in our honor. We take it very seriously and we're deeply.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
And hey, Arnie, don't go anywhere because I'm feeling generous and I'm going to add one more bottle for an auction.
Oh, all right.
Hey, nice.
And this is extremely, extremely rare. This is a 30-year-old Hammerhead Czech single malt.
Oh, gee.
Okay, so the story behind this is this was made during the communist regime of Czechoslovakia. During the communist regime, the communist rulers said to the only distillery in Czechoslovakia, you will make single malt whiskey for us. And they said, we don't know how to make single malt. And their answer was, you will make single malt. So the head distiller had to study and figure out how to do it. And they made a few batches off it. And then in 1989, when communism fell, sorry, was it 89? I'm just trying to think. The whiskey was forgotten about. So when the Velvet Revolution happened, it was all forgotten about. And when the distillery was purchased about 8 years ago, the new owners were walking through and the warehouse manager said, we have these barrels of whiskey over here. And they're saying, what whiskey? You never made whiskey. And they said, yeah, we did. So this is a single malt, 100% Czech barley, aged in Czech oak. This is a single barrel that I selected. We did 2 years ago, we did a 28-year-old. And this is the last 30-year-old barrel that I selected. We bought the entire barrel for the US. There were, I'm trying to remember how many bottles there were on here, 200 and, I should say it's on here somewhere. Sorry, 300 bottles that came out of it. It's 51.2%. This is history in a bottle. Retail on this is $750 because it's extremely rare, and it was named as one of the most sought after collectibles in the world. And so I am willing to, for this great cause, willing to add this bottle to auction off right now.
Well, first off, Raj, thank you. That's extraordinarily generous of you. Thank you very, very much. Not only have we learned from you, but this generosity is wonderful and it benefits our congregation. So thank you for doing it. Thanks so much. Okay, this is a wonderful opportunity. Amy and Steve, let's get ready to see if there'll be people where we could open it up and where we, Andy Superfly Goldberg, excellent. We appreciate so much. $500 to start. That's wonderful, Andy. And we love that you're participating in this. And $500 is a very generous bid for for a piece of history. Could you just, Raj, show me once more? Is there something around the neck of that bottle? Did I notice something?
It's just a tag that's on there that they put on there. It doesn't. I think it's just the insignia for the distillery.
For the distillery, the Czech distillery.
The Prodlo distillery. So the name Hammerhead comes from a hammer mill, which is an old style of mill that's used to crush the barley.
So an old style mill to crush a barley. Okay, we have $500. Very, very good.
Barry Shangle asks, "Is the whiskey good?" I'm sorry.
The whiskey is excellent.
What are you doing here? What's going on?
Look at this. All right, I'm going to pour a little bit in my glass, and
I'm gonna demonstrate it.
Oh, this is just candied apple.
Barry's gonna drink it.
Caramel, candied apple, little spice, a lot of vanilla, honeycomb.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we have a bid of 500. It's fantastic. Barry Scheingold, your question was answered, and I believe your prayers are answered actually here as well, as long as you're doing this for Bethel. Look at this opportunity. This is fantastic. Vivian, Neil, and Barry, what do you say?
We have 550 from Marla.
We have a bid. We have a bid of Marla Lewitis for
Excellent,
550.
Marla, fantastic.
Woo!
Marla, 550. That's wonderful. So I go back to you. Let's try for a moment. Jim and Lisa, what do you say? Like, we've got a 550. Would you be at 575?
They're separate groups.
Oh, they're separate groups. No, I thought Jim and Lisa were together on the last one. 600, Michelle Feinblum. Excellent, Michelle. Wonderful. Michelle at 600.
That makes sense for Michael Gavelber.
Michael Gavelber. Oh, that's right, Michael.
Yes.
This is a big deal. This is great. Wonderful. 600 for Michelle and Michael. Marla, I would go back to you. What do you think about 625, Marla? This is a really beautiful. I love the way you put that, Raj. It literally is a piece of history. It's a, what did you say? The only one? What did you say about it?
It's the last barrel that will be released. It was made in the final year of communism.
Go Vivian.
Wonderful. We have 800 from Vivian and team. Excellent.
And I just put up in the chat, if you go to our website, glassrev.com/hammerhead, you can get more details about the release.
Wonderful. Vivian and her team are at 800. I want to go back to Andy by any chance. You're interested in 825. Jim Jensen and Lisa, 825. 825 is really, this is a piece of history. And this is the sort of thing that you could have like on your mantle. It's great. Marla, what do you say? 825. 825, Marla. Will you think that possibly? 825. Jim Jensen raised his hand. Excellent.
$1,000.
All right.
All right.
Oh, Jim.
Excellent, Jim. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
I was actually,
the whole thing is warming us. It's wonderful. It's great.
I was in Berlin on September 11, 1989, when the wall came down. So I worked in a company there. Yeah.
And you know, that's, Jim, you bring up a really interesting point. So we talk about the quality of the flavor, and we can see it's wonderful. The stuff we've had is wonderful. But this is a sort of thing to be able to have like a piece of that sort of history, your connection to it. And that's why I go back to Michelle and Michael. 1,025, 1,025. I think this maybe yours tonight. It could be yours for 1,025.
Zdrovia.
Oh, Andy's 1,100.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Well,
1,100. Good man, good man. Andy, is there a connection historically or personally for you and your household? Andy, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, there he is.
Oh, Andy, you're part of a group. Okay, excellent. Okay, we're at 1,100. I go back to you, Vivian, Neil, and Barry. What do you say? 1,125. 1,125 is a nice round number, or it's a prime number, or something like that, or is it something like that? 1,125. What do you say? Got a possibility here? 1,125. Jim, 1,125. Jim, 1,125. What do you say? We'll give it a moment.
Remember, history does not repeat.
History does not repeat. Right. And Raj, did I not hear you say this is kind of the last one that you and your organization had? This is the last one?
This is the final after they stopped distilling after 1989. So, you know, when the wall communism fell, the Velvet Revolution. So this was the last year that whiskey was made in, and the name Hammerhead is actually being retired. The new owners are not going to use that anymore. It's going to, you'll see it under the name of the distillery called Pradlo.
Right. So I just had to ask one thing before.
saw
we go
Jim's
to
hand go up.
25. How would you feel if Jim Jensen, because I'm thinking about something you said a little while ago, said he got this and gave it to him and you were in person and he poured it into a can of Coke. Like I said, this is really, I just want to make sure I understand. An $1,125 bottle of scotch with history, and he takes a can of Coke and he pours it right in there. How would you feel about that?
Well, you know what? If he pays $1,125 for it, he can do whatever he wants with it.
Well put, well put. Okay.
$11.50.
$11.50. There you go.
Okay, that includes the Coke. It includes the Coke. We're at $11.50.
But it goes, if I, that's it for me, but it'll go on my shelf. I have a big piece of the wall. I picked it up and when it came down with the colors on it.
Wow.
And I have a border guard, East German border guard threw his hat over the wall and I picked that up too.
Wow.
So this will go with that, but this is where I stopped.
Jim, that's great. It's wonderful. 1150 Jim Jensen et al. 1150 going once.
Hang on, whoa. I see Sarah Balin's hand up. Sarah, was that your hand? Hang on, unmute yourself, Sarah. We can't hear you. Sarah, I can't hear you.
Okay, I just want to say two things. One, I hope I get my glasses. And two, I'm going to try and help Arnie out and say, doesn't anybody want a good life? $1,800?
Okay, you're suggesting that or you're bidding that?
I'm suggesting that.
Very, very good. Thank you. Sarah, your generosity has meant a great deal to all of us, and I really appreciate it. We all want a good life, but I'm going to go now with Jim Jensen, 1150 once, 1150 twice. Sold to our friend Jim Jensen. Congratulations, Jim. Well done.
And Sarah, you will get your glasses.
That's
a lot. Your story is wonderful, Jim.
So just let me say that our checks will pass in the mail.
Oh, well done. Raj, thank you. This is wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
If Jim, we were playing chess, you would have had me a checkmate. So.
I was trying to get them up to something religious rather than just Scotch.
I would say with quorum coming.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for their generosity in bidding and I just a great cause. So I just wanted to contribute more to it. So
that's great. Raj, thank you for your teaching, for your generosity. I turn it back to you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Arnie. All right, we're going to move on to whiskey number 6. Six.
All right, so now we're moving slowly into the realm of peated whiskeys, and what peated means, and a lot of people when you mention the word Scotch to them, they think everything is smoky and peaty and has all that stuff. Where in reality, only 10% of what comes out of Scotland has that flavor profile, and most of that peaty, smoky whiskey is made on Islay, little island off the coast of Scotland. And the reason that you get those whiskeys like that is because if you've ever been to the western part of Scotland, there's no trees. Okay. Over all of the centuries, all of the North Atlantic winds have knocked over the leaves and the branches and everything else, and they've filled up these little ponds that eventually have turned into peat bogs, and all that deciduous material, the organic material, continues to decay, and it's pre-coal stage if you think about it. So another few 100,000 years it'll turn into coal, but because there was no other source of heat on the island, they use peat. So you cut out little blocks of peat, you burn those in the fireplaces and the houses, but peat still has moisture in it, so it imparts some smoke. Now, barley is one of those few grains that have to go through a development process. So you take barley that's already dried, then you soak it to start it germinating because you want the enzymes out of there. But you have to you soak it for a little bit, then you have to dry it because If you let it keep soaking, it's going to turn to a plant. So depending on how you dry it, if you use hot air or gas fire, it's not going to change the profile of the barley. But if you use peat, depending on how much peat you use and how long you dry the barley for, the amount of smoke from that peat is going to cling to the oils in the barley and give you that smoky character. And whether you use peat from Islay or you use it from mainland Scotland or from England or from Washington State or Manitoba, it's going to have different profiles because there's different material to go into it. Okay. So these next two whiskeys, the first one we're going to have, number 6, is slightly peated. It's not overly peated. Whereas number 7 is going to be fully peated. So let's pick up number 6. And so this is at 50% alcohol or 100% proof, 100 proof. A lot of nice fruit notes, a lot of citrus and spices up on there. You might get, depending on how good your aroma sense is, you might pick up a little bit of smoky earthiness on there. And I just want to point out that the fact that all of you are still on this and you're able to taste and smell means you don't have COVID. This is actually, I've been conducting a COVID test the whole time, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. But all right, so you're getting a little bit of that on there, and let's taste this. Wow, lots of, a little bit of oakiness. It's very rich, dark chocolate, a lot of fruit. I get some, maybe some cherries, out of stone fruit, a little apricot on there, you know, but if people are getting other things. And then once that alcohol sort of dissipates, you get a little bit of that smoky, sweet smoke essence that lingers on the tongue and maybe on the back of the throat. A little drying, and then it opens up and it continues to develop and build. You know, that's the essence of it. Nice long finish, continues to have spices that are developing. Yeah, smoked paprika. I was going to say that, a little smoked spice that's coming in there. Maybe a little marmalade it's developing on there. Just a really, maybe a little bit of woodiness, a little wood chips that are coming in there. Cocoa and chipotle, I like that. Yep, lots of different flavors. This whiskey has a lot going on. Very long finish. I like that halva. Yep, definitely. Somebody says, can you describe the feelings, warmth and yes, I definitely get that warmth. It's very warming. It's very uplifting. It's got a lot of good texture on there. You can sort of still get that coating on the tongue that continues to linger and develop and build. And on the sides of your mouth, you're getting that little bit of oak tannin, that little bit of smokiness that's in there. Just, I don't know, a lot going on in this whiskey. But I'm waxing eloquent about this because I'm just, hopefully you're all picking up those notes as well. A lot of sort of malted chocolate, malted milk, a little bit happening there. Yeah, I'm just throwing out things, hoping that'll trigger some aroma, taste sensations in people. But all right, so think about where this is from, how old do you think it is, and don't forget to include it in your rankings. And after we do the last one, we'll give you a few minutes to sort of rank all of your whiskeys and see which one you like the best. And then we will, after the last one, we will unveil each of the whiskeys. And we're going to ask for honesty here. And I know you're all honest, but at the end of it, hold up your little sheets and let's show us who got the most right. And we're looking for both country and age. Okay, the age is most important. That's the main criteria that I'm gonna look at, and then country is going to give you any bonus or tiebreaker on there. So the main thing to focus is on how old you think each of these whiskeys was or is. Okay. All right. Any thoughts before we move on to the last whiskey? Nope. Okay. It's a shame to finish that off, but we did. I have to keep reaching behind me to get all the bottles. But... All right, this last whiskey. So the one we had, we just finished was 50% alcohol. This last one is 48.9%. It's again a single barrel. And this one is maybe a little more smoky on the nose. But there's a little like layer of sweetness on there. It might be masking the smokiness. It's interesting. If you put a little water in there, it gives you more sort of sweet smoke. Almost like a sweet campfire if you're using maybe like cherry wood or aspen, some really nice rich wood in there to give you that smoke flavor. Maybe a nice little sweet cigar or cigarello aroma on there. But quite delicious on the nose anyway. Apple smoke, yeah. A little bit of bacon. You know what? I was I was hesitating for saying bacon, but given the audience, but certainly I think that you're getting that. I like to call it sort of like pork belly, smoked pork belly, barbecue pork belly kind of flavors in there. Somebody asked me to talk about the 4 countries again that we are tasting the whiskeys from. So England, Canada, India, Scotland. Okay. So remember, there's 4 countries, but 7 whiskeys. So 1 country, 2 countries, 3 countries are going to duplicate. Okay, but don't know what bacon tastes like. Okay. Wow. Okay, so let's taste this. Wow. So this one's really interesting. The finish is definitely more smoky, more oily and rich than the last one we had. It's leaves certainly on the back of the tongue. You're getting that salty barbecue flavor that keeps building. It's almost like a barbecue spice, sweet as well as smoky on there. Pipe tobacco. Yep, I get that. And then as it builds on there in the middle of the tongue, you're getting more sort of sweet molasses, honey notes on there. Not so much on the front, a little bit of saltiness, maybe a little bit of dried wood, a little tannin on the front of the tongue and on the side, on the cheeks, but on the back of the tongue is where a lot is still happening. And then it tends to dry out. Maybe a little dry celery seed, a little woody, cherry wood, maybe. Okay, so Gail doesn't like the aftertaste. Huh. Yeah. You know what? Peated, smoky whiskeys are not for everybody. And that's why I only put two of them in there. I only put one that's heavily smoky like this last one. But we sort of stayed away from it just because majority of people don't tend to like that. It's an acquired taste. I know that my first revelation in whiskey, the thing that sort of turned me on to whiskey was, oh God, 40 years ago, having a Lafroig quarter cask, something I'd never experienced before, and thinking, wow, what is this? It's just incredible. And wanting to know more about how whiskeys can have so many different flavors and profiles. But this, I like to finish on this. Some people don't like it. I like it. So it's all individual taste. But yeah, what do people think about this? Yes and no, no, yes, yes. Okay. All right. Yeah, well, I'll just go show you the range. I mean, we went from something really light to something really heavy and smoky. And that just shows you the range of whiskeys that exist out there, and, from single malts. And if we did a tour of Scotland, and if we were just in Scotland, you would have experienced all of these different flavors, driving around Scotland over a week. We would have started off in the lowlands with something light and fruity, and gone up to the space side, the highlands, and gone over, stayed in the highlands a little bit, and then gone over to Islay and had a lightly smoky whiskey, and then a more of a smoky whiskey. But yeah, so that was our little tour. So should we do the great unveiling? A lot of people don't like that. A lot of quite
Aren't
unpleasant.
people supposed to like, aren't people supposed to be able to guess?
Well, we're going, so that's the form. The forms they have, Amy, is everyone has to write in there and guess. So I am going to go through these and try to figure out and try to see how many people got the first them correct. So
let's give everyone just a couple minutes to finish their form.
Yeah, we'll give you a couple of minutes to also do your rankings, because we want to know that. And I think we'll do the rankings later, but
Zach
people
wants
ask
to
you
know
where they
how
should
we're
send their
gonna
guests.
send the guesses. I think people are just supposed to write them down, right, Steve?
Yes, people will write them down and we'll reveal it. And then whoever's got the most can yell out and then hold their thing up so we can all see their triumph.
It's an honor system.
Yeah.
It is an honor system. And I'm honored to be here with you all.
Thank you.
We're really honored to have you. This has really been interesting and wonderful, and we really appreciate your
Thank you.
generosity.
Thank you.
And your breadth of knowledge. It's terrific.
This has been
Thank
amazing.
you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all. This is
Namaste.
it's a pleasure. It's a privilege for everyone to take their Saturday evening to be here. In normal
Thank you.
times we would have been doing
What
this
else are we gonna
in public, in person.
What else could we do?
Safer.
This is perfect.
This is, I
That's
have to
great.
say, I like doing these things virtually because I don't have to worry about driving afterward.
Exactly.
That's exactly. You know what? That's a good point. I'm doing 2 or 3 of these a week, and it's incredible. I mean, you get an hour and a half with everyone, and you get to really interact with people and enjoy it a lot more. Because when I do a lot of these tasting events where I'm standing behind a table for 3 hours, you might get to spend 30 seconds with somebody. But here I get to spend a lot of time with a lot of people. So it's my honor to do this. 6 is not Lafroig. I like that. It was a torture, and I think that was tongue in cheek from Gene.
Barry Scheingold wants to know, do you need an especially large liver capacity to do your job?
No, but I need to have a lot of diligence to make sure I drink a lot of water and take a break. So I'm it's a tough job, but you have to, I don't have to drink all of the time, nor do I want to, but certainly having an appreciation for spirits, and especially when I teach, because I teach, as Steve said earlier, I teach Wine and Spirits Education Trust, spirits level 1, 2, and soon I'll be teaching level 3, which is, they're all pretty intense courses. Level 3 is like a 5-day course with a lot of tasting and stuff. So at that point, you have to figure out, what things taste like, rather than having to taste along with everybody. But drinking a lot of water is really important. So
Take a lot of my milk thistle. It's very good for your liver. Milk thistle extract.
that's a good point. Yeah. Hey, Steve, should we?
So I think we should go ahead, unless the rabbi wants to tell us what his cat has chosen as its favorite. We should go ahead and.
The cat is sadly not impressed. He would much prefer catnip, but he's a cat.
He does have a
That's great.
He does have preferred catnip. He is discerning, and we definitely are discerning as well, and have some real favorites in our ranking here. So I'm looking forward to the guessing about where they came from. See how we did.
All right. I wonder what it would be like if we unmuted everybody and I said, number one, where do you think it's from? And everybody said things, but I think it'd be probably too overwhelming. So, all right, number one, where?
I don't know. We could create a poll perhaps, but I don't know if we could. I don't know how quickly we could do that.
Yeah, I think you have to do that before.
Do that ahead of time. Okay.
I think you have to do it ahead of time with Zoom. Yeah, but all right. So, maybe just throw it up in the chat. So I'll give people a second. Number one, where do you think it's from, and how old? So where do you think it's from and how old? Throw it up in the chat. I'll just look at. I'll pick randomly what people are saying. So we're getting Canada, India, Scotland, India, England, 5. Okay, all right. All right, so I think we have a few random guesses, but all right, so a few you said England. If you said England, you were correct. And if you said England 4 years old, you're even more correct. So this is from the number one is the English Whiskey Company, original single malt whiskey. This was their first product, bottled at 43% ABV, and unpeated, all 100% English barley. Actually, the barley is still grown on the Nelson farm, so it's direct barley to glass to bottle product. Okay, and 4 years, 4.5 years of age on there. Okay, so a lot of you had that. So number one, yeah, is the English Whiskey Company. And we'll send out at the end of this, we'll send out the list.
Bonnie is asking what kind of cask was that one in?
That was in an ex-bourbon cask. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Ex-bourbon cask. Correct. Okay.
And I'm there's also a question, Steve. Will the list will be emailed out at the end?
When we're done, I will post the link to the order form, and I will also send it out to the list in an email.
Okay, so number two, throw up where you think this is from and how old you think it is. Okay. Rabbi, you said Scotland 8 years old. Why did you say Scotland 8 years old?
So the flavors were very well balanced, and you said that that was a sign of age, that sort of integration of the various layers there. The Scotland, it tasted almost like lightly peated. It had that leathery taste that I've associated with certain scotches in the past.
Well, Rabbi, you could have a second career, because this is from Scotland. This is 8 years old. This is the Murray McDavid, who's an independent bottler. This is from the Craigellachie distillery. This was first aged in bourbon casks and then split into 3 different barrels that had been previously seasoned with rum and finished in there. So it had, like I said, 6 years in bourbon casks and then 2 years in rum barrels. So you get that extra layer of complexity with the rum in there. So it is young, but Craigellachie is a great distillery. They make really, really good products, and it's really interesting to have that rum influence on there. So, Rabbi, very well done, Mazel tov, for guessing the year and the country. So.
And full disclosure, it was definitely a team effort with Stephanie here, and I have to say, with Stephanie, who got me to start drinking Scotch back in the day.
There you go. There you go. So did anybody else get? I saw a few of you have Scotland, but I didn't see any other Scotland 8, and that's why I just saw that and picked it up. But I think a few had Scotland 5, but a lot of you, most of you did not have Scotland as a country on this. Okay. All right, number 3.
Hang on a second. Cynthia, so Cynthia asked, will we get an email with information about each of the scotches we tasted?
Yes.
And I'm sure, yes.
Yeah, we'll have all of the details on there, and I think, Steve, I did send you a complete breakdown of each of them, and also we have a price list to purchase this from Danny's
Right.
in Sudbury, and Danny's will take pre-orders and then order. So it might be a couple of weeks before you get the products, but
So what we're going to do,
Danny's has special pricing.
what we're going to do is the orders will all go through through Bethel, and then we will present a large order to Danny's, and then it will be pick up from Bethel. For those who are not local, we'll work that out.
Okay, great. So nice. Number 3.
We're also supporting a local business. Yay.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that was local business. Our distributor is Massachusetts based. Obviously, they're based in Randolph, and then Danny's is a local retailer for you. So supporting all local companies. I come to Massachusetts quite a bit. I'm not local, but I do come there quite a bit. So I try to get those locals. And in normal times, I like I said, I would have been at this event in person, but given COVID, I haven't not been on a plane in close to a year or so, which is unusual for me, who normally flies about 160,000 miles a year and probably 110, 120 flights a year. So very, very unusual. So, all right, number 3. Yeah, we're on number 3. Okay, number 3, throw up there where you think it's from. Somebody said Greece. We don't have, Greece is not one of the countries that we have whiskey from. I don't even think Greece makes whiskey, but they make Metaxa brandy. But Canada, Scotland, England, India, Canada, India. All right. So those of you who said India, you are correct. And for, let me see, Andy had India 4. Lisa had India 4. All right, so Lisa and Andy are correct. This is the Amrut Classic Single Malt from India, made by Amrut Distilleries in Bangalore. 100% Indian barley, bottled at 46%. And India is the largest producer of whiskey in the world. But a lot of what is made and sold as whiskey in India would not classify or legally be called whiskey anywhere else in the world, because a lot of it is made from a 100% neutral molasses spirit with some imported whiskey added to it. But these are 100% single malts made according to the Scottish single malt regulations. 100% Indian malted barley, yeast, and water, aged in a combination of new virgin American oak and ex-bourbon barrels, and then aged for 4 years. Now, the unique thing about Bangalore, India, is that 4 years in Bangalore is like 12 years in Scotland, because they lose 10 to 15% a year to angel share or the evaporation rate, compared to 1 to 3% in Scotland. So a lot quicker maturation. Just think about it, in 5 years, 50% of your barrels evaporated. That's how quickly it matures. So you can't, in India, they can't, at Amrut, unfortunately, they haven't been able to do anything currently older than 12 years, just because they lose so much from the barrels, very little is left. But regularly available at most retailers and across the country. So Amrut Classic Indian Single Malt.
And Andy asks if that's a function of the climate.
It is, absolutely. So Ashok, who's the head distiller at Amrut, likes to say that Amrut's a missing link between Scotland and Kentucky. So they're making a single malt like you would make in Scotland, but it's maturing like it would in Kentucky. So in Kentucky, because like in Bangalore, it has hot, dry summers and cooler, drier winters, so you have 70, 75 degrees in the winter, 120 in the summer, 45% humidity in the winter, 75% in the summer. So when you have heat and low humidity, you tend to lose more water, and the alcohol strength actually goes up, which is very similar to what happens in Kentucky. So they're losing, like I said, 10 to 15% a year out of their barrels. So a lot quick, rapid maturation that goes on due to the climate. But that's only at Amrut, which is in Bangalore. Other distilleries in India that make single malt whiskeys, because of where they're located, they have different climate conditions that affect it differently. But hopefully y'all enjoyed that.
And the age on this one was?
4 years. 4 years. Yeah. So this was the Amrut Classic Single Malt, 4 years old, aged in a combination of new American oak and ex-American bourbon barrels. Okay, number 4. Throw up in the comments where you think it's from and how old you think it is. Remember, this was the cask strength, high strength whiskey, 62.3% alcohol. I'm sorry, it's 61.2. I thought it was 63.2, 61.2. Okay, so Canada, a few you said Canada. Canada 8. Okay, so who said Canada for this one?
I saw
All right, I
several
see.
Canadas. I saw one Canada 4.
Okay, so I've seen a Canada 5. I've seen a couple of Canada. Oh, there's a Canada 4. So Jessica said Canada 4. And Canada 5, Canada 5, Canada 5. Okay, Jessica, you are correct. Canada, 4 years old. This is from the Stock and Barrel Distillery, located just north of Toronto. They were the first craft distillery in Canada. This is 100% Canadian barley, and it is cask number 48. I'm holding bottle number 112. So it's a single barrel, bottled at 61.2%. So all the information is right on there. And so there would have been a total of 220 bottles out of this, but no water added, bottled at full cask strength. And it is a little drier north of Toronto, so they don't get huge loss of alcohol. So it's still kept a lot of alcohol, but small batch, nice earthy, fruity, a lot of barley driven. You get a lot of that oak, barley, green apple. This is the one we talked about, green apple notes in there. So. All right. And I had to throw that in there since I grew up in Toronto, and Stock and Barrel is just not far, far from where I grew up, and great people. And sorry, cask. This was ex-bourbon cask. Sorry, Bonnie, I keep forgetting to say that, but I should do that. Yeah, this was an ex-bourbon cask that this was aged in for the entire time. So it saw no other cask influence. Single barrel, filled and bottled from that single barrel. Okay. All right. Number 5. This was the one that was a little higher in alcohol as well, 55.6%. So let's throw up where we think it's from and how old we think it is. All right. Somebody said a Highland single malt, aged 12 years. Who was that? Speak up.
That was me.
All right. Why did you think it was a Highland single malt?
It could, because of, even though I didn't taste peat, but it felt like it was a very mild, but obviously a Scotch. It's just how it reminded me of like a Macallan. I'm familiar with that because I drink that a lot. So it seemed
Okay.
close to that.
And what type of barrel do you think it was in?
Sherry.
Sherry. Interesting. Okay. Anybody want to debate Seth on that?
I thought Madeira. Is that the
Madeira.
same thing?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give it to Seth because this is from the Highlands. It is from the Tullibardine Distillery. It is 10 years old. And this is a single barrel that was aged in a Chateau Pape Clement barrique. So Chateau Pape Clement is a Bordeaux distillery. So I spent the entire time in a red wine Bordeaux cask for 10 years, bottled at 55.6%. non-chill filtered, no color added, all natural goodness in there. So if you're not familiar, the Tullibardine Distillery is a small Highland distillery, privately owned and under the radar, that make great whiskeys. So well done, Seth. All right. Somebody knows their whiskeys, so that's great. All right. All right. So yeah, there's a lot of good no sherry yet, and in fact, unfortunately, we're not going to have any sherry whiskeys tonight, but we'll get close to it. All right, number 6. So throw up where you think number 6 is from and how old you think it is. All right, so I want Cynthia and I'm trying to think who else. Sorry, there's somebody else here. And Lisa to identify themselves. All right, Lisa, why did you think it was from India, and why did you think it was 5 years?
It's got it had a lot of spices in it, and it was really warm, and I was tasting chocolate, and you mentioned that it takes longer, it takes a shorter period of time to reach that in India, so that's why I said 5.
Okay, very good. And Cynthia.
Well, at the shorter time, I did guess because I was guessing India as well because of what you'd already said. But I thought about what it would taste good with, and that was my guess. That was my guess about where it came from. I thought it would have these lovely, rich flavors, and I thought it would complement, maybe the perfect thing to have after really delicious Indian dinner. So
great. Well, both Lisa and Cynthia, give yourself full points because this is the Amrut Fusion single malt. Fusion is comprised of 75% of the first Amrut you had and 25% of their peated single malt. So the two whiskeys are made separately, and then they're combined 75-25% and aged further in bourbon barrels to finish off, bottled at 100 proof. This is Amrut's flagship whiskey. It has won multiple awards, including World Whiskey of the Year 3 times. Always gets 95, 96, 97 points. And a great introduction for people who say, I don't like smoky peated whiskeys, to really give you that low level of smoke and peat. So this is, one of the whiskeys I'm most proud of, but I think it's just delicious. And, it is 5.5, 6 years in total age. And it is aged in a combination of ex-bourbon and new American oak barrels. And it's something really unique that I think if you want to compare it to like a Scotch single malt, Highland Park, Jura, Talisker would sort of be in that range of where this is. But again, very different because the unpeated and peated whiskeys are made separately, and then they're married and aged further together. So readily available, but in such high demand. We've been out of stock since December, and we're fighting with the shipping companies to get stuff here, and we have 3 containers waiting to get delivered. But we're facing all the challenges everybody else is having.
If I can comment, If I can
Yeah.
comment, this was one of this and the other Indian one. It was so, these are in such high demand that we ended up, one of the bottles from which we were pouring was actually a case of nips of this, of one in its own little tiny container,
Yes.
because it was that hard to get. So this was,
Yeah.
this is clearly in demand.
Yeah, we were sold out, and when originally Steve and I figured there was going to be about 50 people, and when the demand for this tasting kept escalating, I had to dig into some of the nips or the minis we had to satisfy, especially for the two en routes, just because we're sold out. But my one container is supposed to be delivered next week. It's here. It's supposed to be delivered to our warehouse, and then we have another one arriving March 8th, or 5th. So, and that's got 600 cases of each on there, and then
They come
another
in
one
little
coming.
sized.
There you go. Aren't they cute? Yeah.
Adorable. It's so cool.
Yeah. And these are available for sale. They're actually available in Massachusetts for sale. So
Oh,
very good.
could you
All
give
right.
an idea of the cost of each of these?
Yeah, they'll be right at the end of it. Sarah will share all of that. Steve has a price list.
Steve will be sharing that. Okay.
I'll put out the Bethel list,
Yeah.
our price list.
Yeah, there's a special price list for you. All right. Unfortunately, last but not
I just want to know the regular price too. I'm just
75 for this one.
75 for this one.
Regular price, yeah. But Steve will put up the list for everything. So
Yeah. Okay, but I can't write that fast. So
No, it's
Okay.
going to be sent out to you ahead. It's going to be sent out to you. You don't have to write it all down. It's okay.
okay, I'm just taking it down because my
Right.
writing.
Okay,
hand-
last but not least, we have our final whiskey, which again, where it's from and how old do you think it is?
I like Ina's guess. She says it's from the La Brea tar pits from 30,000 years ago.
All right. Well, interesting. Okay, so all right, and let's see. Marlon and Jane. Jean, Martin, and Jane. I already said that's right. Jessica and Beth and Marla. Oh, and sorry, Fran. All right, so I'm going to call all of you out to tell me why you think it's from Scotland and why you think it's 8 to 10 years old.
I'm a big fan of the peats. I like Oban and Lafroig, or however you pronounce it. And it
Lafroig.
tasted very much like what we have in the house right now. It had nice mellow taste, and it tasted like it was aged. Really loved it.
Okay, thanks, Shane. Anybody else who?
You said it all. I
Identify.
agree 100%. Ditto.
Same.
Petey.
Yep, lovely.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is this typical of peated whiskeys that you would get from Isla? So is it, Jean, you mentioned Lafroig. Is it like a Lafroig? Is it like Lagavulin? Is it like Kalila? Is it like Ardbeg? Or is it something different? I know it's peated.
I thought number 6 was more like the Islay malt.
Okay.
It reminds me of Lafroig.
Lafroig, yeah. Well, it's interesting because this is actually a Highland whiskey. It's made by the Ardmore Distillery. There we go. Sorry. And it is 8 years old. And Ardmore is one of those few Highland distilleries that actually make a peated whiskey. But they're using mainland peat, not Isla peat. And the difference is when you use Isla peat, you tend to get, because it's a lot of salt water and seaweed and plankton and other things, you tend to get more of that iodine, salty, salinity characteristic, Band-Aid, hospital, antiseptic kind of flavors. When you use mainland peat, you get more earthy, deciduous, grassy, sweet smoke fire thing, and that's what this is, Ardmore. And this was finished in a Marcella cask. So I think nobody mentioned Madeira, Marcella. People have mentioned Madeira before, but this is Marcella. Marcella is a dessert wine made in Sicily. It's not only, Marcella is delicious, not only for cooking, but also a great dessert wine. But there was 330 bottles. This is bottle number 23. So they're all a single barrel. The Firkin is an independent bottler that uses, they have these bespoke casks that are made up of ex-bourbon, New American, and French oak staves, and then they season the barrel with whatever wine they're going to use. So in this case, it was Marcella, and then the Ardmore was put into it to finish off. But bottled at 48.9%, which is the reason it's 48.9 is the two owners. One was born in 1948, one was born in 1949. So that's where the 48.9 comes from.
How much is that a bottle?
Steve has the prices. It's normally about, I think about 120, but Steve has the prices on these, so it'll be.
It was my favorite. Yeah.
Thank you. And that is it. That is our tasting. That is what we taste tonight. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this, and I certainly want to thank everyone for the privilege of your time to be here. But I certainly had fun. I think it was really enjoyable. I don't know if we would have had the same level of fun if we were doing this in person. The ability to interact via Zoom or anything else is a little different, but I think this is great. I really enjoyed it. I want to thank Steve and Rabbi for inviting me and hosting this, and hopefully all the funds we raised tonight go towards a good cause. And all of you who bid on the bottles, I'll get your details from Steve, and we'll make sure that you get your bottles, and where appropriate, the glasses sent to you.
Okay, so if you got all 7 right, raise your hand. Anyone? Anyone get 6 right? Oh,
I see
did
a
a
hand
just
up.
go up?
Who was it? It was
Marla. Marla has 7.
Look at this. Woo!
Oh, but I got 6 of the countries, but I was completely off on the ages. So.
Okay. So anybody get age? Let's focus on ages. Anybody got ages right?
Anyone get 6 ages right? How about 5?
Oh,
yeah, Rabbi got 5.
Rabbi Josh's hand is up there.
Yep. All right. Looks like no one else got 5 ages right.
Four.
Liz and Barry?
Okay. But the 4 you got right, did you also get the countries right? Yeah.
No, I didn't have 4. I had a premature register on the reaction.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a bottle to both Marla and to the rabbi for getting the most correct, even though there are different ones. But if you want, Steve, give both Marla and the rabbi my contact information. I
Okay.
will send you a bottle based on your personal preferences of the style of whiskey you like, rather than just arbitrarily sending you something, because I want to make sure that you get something that's that you will enjoy and remember of this evening. But yeah, happy to do that. And I think I just want to drive home the point that nothing wrong with young whiskeys. The oldest whiskey we had tonight was 10 years old. Most of them were 4 to 5 years old, and you can have perfectly good whiskeys at that age, as long as they are matured properly and the right kinds of barrels are used. And so don't let age fool you into thinking that older is better. Okay. I think you have to balance maturity versus age. And there are a lot of really, really amazing 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old whiskeys out there that I would drink any day versus drinking a 30, 40, 50-year-old whiskey. They're also more affordable today than they were 20 years ago. But sorry, the older ones are not as more affordable today as they were 20 years ago. That's what I meant. But anyway, thank you. Thanks everyone. And Steve, again, if you want more information about my company and want to learn more and have a chance to even participate in future tastings, we have them quite a bit. Go to our website, glassrev.com, and sign up for our newsletter. We're constantly sending out information. We have a whole bunch of new releases, new products, new brands that we will be releasing this year. So if you sign up for a newsletter, you will be the first ones to know about those.
Raj, I wanted to add my thanks to you for teaching us so much about a subject that you so obviously have such a profound love for. And I want as well to thank Amy. I know that was in the chat. Amy, I don't know how long you spent pouring these beautiful and labeling these beautiful vials. Thank you for that gift of your time and your diligence as well.
I need to also share the thanks as it happened due to the vagaries of UPS. Many of the vials were also poured by Adira, and I think Tristan helped as well. Tristan and Steve helped, but some of the vials were coming in like there was a race between several different shipments to see who was going to get us vials that we could fill so that we could get everything out to you guys, because we were concerned about the snow. But yes, thank you. I like doing boring repetitive work.
Raj, thank you very much for being available and for doing this. This was fantastic. And Arnie, thank you for letting us drag you in at the last minute to be our auctioneer.
Raj, do you do just whiskeys, or do you do cognacs and other things?
We import cognac, gin, rum, just spirits. I used to import wine. I'm still a big wine fan, but wine, over the last 5 years, we just focus on spirits.
Yeah, so cognacs and brandies.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I smell some more events in our future.
Yes. I've posted the link to the order form and also sent it out via email to the Scotch list. And this does include as part of our fundraiser for Bethel and the Adult Ed Committee. So I hope you all enjoyed this and feel like extending that enjoyment over many, many weeks ahead by grabbing these bottles. They're all running out, right? This is they're all going quickly, right?
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
And for those of you who
Thank you,
bid
Tim.
on the
Thank you, Rob.
bottles for the auction, we'll give your information to Steve, and I'll make sure that they get sent to you.
I'll wait patiently.
All right.
So much. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Please email me your contact information and any personalization or anything that that you're expecting that you want with it, and then I will forward all that to Raj. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Raj.
Thanks.